We're recording this now after we've already been to the S1000D show in Amsterdam. But what I'm doing is I'm answering an email from somebody that came in that asked me a stack of questions, which I thought what we would do is, whilst we were traveling around Germany having a few meetings, what we might do is answer or talk about some of the points that were made in the email that was sent through. So please join us on this little trip around Germany, and we will answer the questions and talk about some of the points that were raised. The first part of this question we actually recorded yesterday, and when we got back to the hotel it was something that we actually weren't very pleased with, so we've decided to re-record the first part of your question, and the second part of the question we've actually left it as recorded yesterday. So if there's a little bit of inconsistency or something seems a little bit out of context, then please do forgive us. Anyway, the first part of your question was, should you be learning S1000D or should you be focusing on something else? So we split it into two parts of the question. And I've come down here to outside the Borussia Dortmund stadium here to answer your questions. Getting some really interesting, funny looks, but we're going to go in and buy ourselves a t-shirt while we're here. Anyway, so I broke it into two parts. One, should you be learning S1000D? And the other, should you be focusing your efforts elsewhere? As I said, we answered that part yesterday, the second part yesterday, so we'll put that after this. The good thing about S1000D is that it's quite popular in the aerospace and defense sector. Now, of course, I know a little bit about you. You are not an engineer by trade, you're a translator by trade, and you don't have much engineering background. In fact, you say that you are not an engineer. So the reality is, with something like S1000D, it's a technical specification and it assumes a certain degree of knowledge. Now, what I try to say to people is, liken it to a heart surgeon. A heart surgeon doesn't pick up, or a doctor does not pick up a manual on heart surgery and then all over a sudden is a qualified heart surgeon. The same is with the S1000D specification. You don't pick it up and understand the specification and already you are somehow an expert in the implementation of S1000D. S1000D assumes that you know some, or you have some engineering background, you understand what it's trying to achieve. In the same way, a heart surgeon, it would assume that you understand the mechanics of the heart, you understand the biochemistry, etc., of the makeup of the heart. So what I'm saying here is, this is one of the biggest failings of the community as a whole, is that essentially people say, I really understand S1000D because I can recite SNS codes, I can recite information codes, I can break down the data module code for you. It's actually understanding the mechanics of what's going on behind S1000D and from an engineering perspective, what it's actually trying to achieve. You can find out very quickly who knows exactly what S1000D is trying to achieve just by a few pointed questions. So therefore, what I'm saying to you here is that personally, given your background, I would focus on the second part of the question that you asked, which I'm going to answer from the Football Museum very shortly. And S1000D is very niche, it's very small. With the other stuff that you asked about whether you should look at augmented reality, virtual reality, and those kind of things, you might, from a career perspective, see a little bit more return there. A, because in aerospace and defense it's slowly becoming a topic of discussion. People are wanting to actually look at this technology. And B, S1000D, as I said, requires a certain amount of engineering know-how, engineering skill. That's why in our sector, not the best, but certainly it's tradition that the technical authors come from an engineering background. I came from an engineering background. Most of the people I know that write S1000D data modules, came from an engineering background, so they know what S1000D is actually trying to achieve from an information perspective. So to answer your question, should you be focusing on learning the specification? It won't hurt, but I'm not sure that it will deliver the returns that you would expect from if you learnt something that had a much broader audience or gave you a little bit more opportunity, if you like, if you had that skill set. Okay, I'm going to try and answer the second part of your question now. We've moved over to somewhere a little bit more light-hearted. It's over at the German National Football Museum, and we're going to go in and have a little look around. I'm not sure we're allowed to video or take pictures in there. Last time I got told off. So anyway, the second part of your question, after asking should you be learning the S1000D specification, is should you be focusing on augmented reality, virtual reality, those kind of things. And if I was where you are, and as I've said previously, I've looked at your profile on LinkedIn, and you know, you're still a young person, that's probably where I would be putting my energy right now. I'm not going to spoiler alert the review from the S1000D show in Amsterdam this week, because we're doing a full review on that. But there was lots of discussion and demonstrations on virtual reality, augmented reality, and those kind of things. So, and plus the fact, if you focused on those skills, it has a much broader and a much more, the opportunity for you is much wider with the wider technical information community. So it's a skill that goes cross borders when it becomes something domain specific. S1000D is very aerospace defense, but your augmented reality skills would take you into lots of, you know, pharmaceutical, medical, those kind of things are something that, you know, you would benefit from having those kind of augmented reality, virtual reality skills. Anyway, it's a little bit blustery here. I hope it hasn't been picked up too bad by the microphone. And there's a demonstration going on over there, some kind of old people's demonstration on pensions or something. So anyway, we're now going to go on into the football museum, and I'll answer the next question from somewhere else a little bit more exciting. So this question I'm going to answer from the Mona Dam here in Germany. This is actually Monasee, and if you want to know the history of this dam, it was actually during the Second World War, it was blown up by the British, and the famous Dam Busters film was based on blowing up this and some other dams. But the question I want to answer from the young lady today is that essentially she was asking about the level of domain experts. There seems to be a lack of real deep domain experts when it comes to implementing S1000D. And she's absolutely right. The specification itself takes years to learn, it takes years to understand, and it takes many projects to really understand how you implement this thing. So from the Mona Dam, I just want to say that absolutely, you've got to make sure that the people that you're working with really know their stuff. If they don't know their stuff, then you will hit problems on your project. Get the right partner, get the right vendor, get the right advice, and you will be absolutely fine. Here, it is absolutely toast. There's lots of midgies flying around, and midgies are little flies if you don't know what that means. And it's absolutely roasting here today. And but we've had a great day. We've enjoyed some ice cream. We've been up the top and had a look over the other side where the water is quite high at the moment, and watching everyone sailing by. So domain experts, yes, we know that there is a real lack of domain experts. Okay, so we've walked up the top of the hill here to, this is Kaiser Wilhelm, and lots of great stories about Kaiser Wilhelm. I'll let you go and Google and Wikipedia that stuff. So the first thing that you said in your email, which was interesting, was that you were thinking about coming to the S1000D show in Amsterdam to meet me and have a discussion and have a chat, and you weren't sure whether you were going to be able to make it. Knowing what you do on your project, my suggestion would be, and of course we've had email conversations since, because I'm actually recording this after the Amsterdam show, but this is for the benefit of everybody else who subscribes to YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So my suspicion is that it wouldn't actually be a great event for you, because apart from the fact that you get to meet me and lots of other interesting people, the reality is these shows are really about specifications, where they're going, who manages them, who looks after them, maybe what's coming. The biggest criticism that comes out of these kind of events is the fact that not a lot of people who actually are doing what you're doing, i.e. trying to use it day in, day out, trying to implement it, are actually there. So i.e. the people who will be most critical about these specifications. So these events are good if you want to come and learn about what the specifications are doing, where they're going, what the specifications and supporting specifications are, but not necessarily if you want to learn how to implement the specification. There's lots of other kind of standard topics that go on, data conversion, delivering interactive manuals, those kind of things, but nothing that's really in the weeds, which is what you want. So from Kaiser Wilhelm, let's head on out and answer your next question. Okay, to answer this question that you sent in, it's not really a question, it's more of a statement, is that I've come to a place where we've been before for a tutorial, and if you've watched any of our other tutorials, you'll know exactly where I am. But in case you don't know where I am, this is Romberg Park here in Dortmund, and it's one of the central parks in the city where pretty much everyone comes to run, come to cycle, all of those wonderful things. And I've told you a story before about the Schloss behind me. I won't say it again. You can go and have a look at some of the old tutorials. So what you've said in your email is that you have you're experiencing problems with exchanging data with your customer. Your customer is unable to view the data modules you're giving them, and B, your project didn't have any rules to start with. What happened was, and I know, to be fair to you, you came into the project later on down the line, but what happened is that somebody thought that they could pick up the specification and just try and follow it. Now, the vital thing that we talk about over on TDIQ with all of our courses is that how planning in any S1000D project is just absolutely vital. If you don't plan, then you will fail or you will hit problems. And what you're saying is your project has no business rules, has no breaks, has nothing along those lines, so that when data is being produced, and I'm not sure whether you're actually exchanging data, but if you're exchanging information, this is where it's all going to fall down, because everyone has their own view on S1000D and how it should be implemented. And the problem you've got now is you're stuck in a situation where the wind's just picked up, so hopefully it's still okay. You're in a situation where you are unable to have your customer actually view the information that's given to them. So unfortunately, you're now in a situation where you need to clean up the data. You need to retrospectively go back and clean up the data and have a look at where it's falling down, where it's failing. And you are unfortunately, a great and prime example of where you need to plan an S1000D project before you start work. If you don't, you are going to have problems. So now you're in a situation where retrospectively you need to have a look at the technology you're using, the way that you're producing information, the definitions that you're using, the terminology that you're using, and actually an expensive project has probably just become a little bit more expensive. So I know that, again, and to be absolutely fair to you, it wasn't you that started it, and you're all completely self-taught on S1000D. So it's not uncommon. People do try and think they can pick up the specification and just start. It's not. It's all the success in S1000D is in the planning and then the execution. If you don't do that, it will go horribly, horribly wrong. And unfortunately, you're feeling some of that pain right now. I have pointed you at some resources and I've pointed you at some suggestions. So I hope that that helps alleviate that pain somewhat. But anyway, from here at Romberge Park, we're going to go and have a little walk around the lake. And I think there's a cafeteria at the top end. We may end up having a cup of coffee or something. And there's a nice helicopter flying over. So yeah, unfortunately you're feeling the pain,